I used to be able to do like, I can't do that anymore. Good morning. Okay. Well, good morning. All right. Good. Welcome. I usually like to tell a little story when we begin, but then I was trying to remember the words to us and them, and I didn't think of a story. So I'll just tell a very short one. a sandwich walked into a bar, and the bartender said, "No, we don't serve food here." That's it. All right. Oh, yeah, please do. Oh, you see, I like that. You know what? Wait a minute. Okay, all right. Not that I feel outdone, but as a piano player, I am reminded of a story that perhaps some of you have not heard before. So a man walked into a bar with his little dog, and the bartender said, "No, we don't bring dogs in here." The guy said, "No, wait a minute, watch this." And he set the dog down on the piano bench, and the dog went plunk with its paw, and everybody thought it was so cute. And then the dog really got going, and he was playing Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue, and he was just playing all over the keyboard, and people were just tears streaming down their face. And everybody was so enraptured by this piano-playing dog that they didn't hear this loud, bellowing barking that was getting closer and closer and closer until this giant pit bull came running into the bar, grabbed the little dog in its jaws, and ran away. And the bartender said, "Hey, man, I think your little dog's in trouble." He said, "Yeah, that was his mom. She wanted him to be a doctor." Okay, well, I almost told that one. Welcome to this place, which we make holy by our presence. These doors are open to all. Bring your brokenness and bring your power. Bring your fatigue, your early morning aches, and your energy. Come into this place where the ordinary is sanctified, where the human is celebrated, where compassion is strength. Welcome to this place. Together, we make it a holy place. Please join me for the words of the chalice lighting, which are printed in your leaflet. May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of freedom. It's so nice to be in a safe place. You know, if this was a Christian church and somebody's phone rang, everybody would be looking. But we're Unitarians. It's okay. No, it's okay. It's like unseen forces can communicate with us at any time. Our first hymn is number 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. Divination is when you seek spirit messages in just random phenomena. And this is how I pick my responsive readings, is that while we sing Enter, Rejoice, and Command, I just open the hymnal to the back and just see what pops out at me. And today, what popped out at me, of all things, was number 475, We the Peoples of the United Nations. And this is the Charter of the United Nations. So I hope it won't be contentious here. None of this is printed in italics, but I feel like we can take turns anyway. I have no idea what this is going to say. I have never read the Charter of the United. I just glanced through it quickly to make sure there's nothing racist in there. So this is number 475, and we'll all be surprised. How many of us have ever heard of this? Okay, right. And who can even tell me what the United Nations is or was? I don't know. But let's try this. Let's see what happens. We, the peoples of the United Nations, determined to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war, to reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights and the dignity and worth of the human person, in the equal rights of men and women and of nations large and small. And for these ends, to practice tolerance and to live together in peace as good neighbors, to unite our strength to maintain internal peace and security, to ensure that armed force shall not be used unless in the common interest, to employ international machinery in the promotion of the economic and social advancement of all people, have resolved to combine our efforts to accomplish these aims. This seems like such a good idea. Somebody should try that. Worthy question, presumably not the dark satanic mills, but I don't know. So we've reached the center of our service. This is the time when we kind of take a page from our Quaker siblings. This is the time when everybody here gets to be kind of a minister for a moment. And we can share our individual joys and sorrows. So, please think about if there's something you'd like to share, and if you do, please come up and light a candle.
Hi, my name's Meg. I thought somebody else would go first. I wasn't really prepared, but I'm just bursting with happiness about that. I had such a wonderful Easter with my family. They came to share it in my little studio / one-bedroom apartment. There were 8 of us, my stepbrother, my daughter, and her fiance. Did you want to speak though, Patty, before? Okay. I didn't know if there was something that needed to be said first. So they came, and my mother, of course, and then I gave a little sermon about the commonalities between resurrection and recovery from whatever, right? Fill in the blank. So it was really beautiful and well taken. My brother bought a bottle of wine, and I was like, I'm 5 years off the sauce. But, sometimes people just don't get that kind of stuff, and that's okay. I'm in an okay place for him to have brought it, you know what I mean? Other than that, it's been a very sorrow. Back in 1979, I had to change I changed my last name to my mother's last name because I was being picked on at school so badly. It was during the hostage crisis with Iran, and my last name was Gafalabashi. Can you imagine being in kindergarten with a 13-letter long last name, Gafalabashi? Okay, I'm not alone. But I mean, it went off the side of the desk, I'm telling you. But so I changed it because I was getting picked on. You know, people saying my father was a towelhead and a camel jockey and, you know, all those kinds of things. And my father was not a great guy. You know, he didn't support us when my parents split when I was 5, but he's still my dad, you know. So every year I do call him. He's in LA now. So when I say that my blood is being spilled, it really is now, and I don't know how to handle it too well. That's why I need to come to church and do what I can. Like you mentioned in No King's Day, I'm going down to the Quaker Church to get more training. They're doing nonviolent training with people coming into ICE coming into the churches and other places. So, thank you. Somebody else? I'm glad you're back.
Morning, everybody. Let her do her thing. So I have joy to share today. I am happy to say I'm very proud. Braxton's going to come up after me, actually. He's got some stuff going on, and I am proud of him for being brave. And he's going to come up here, and it might be short, but for a little guy, it's a lot for him. But I am proud. And I'm really thankful because talking to him this morning about coming up here and sharing, I reminded him he is not the only one who is going to feel the way that he's feeling today and the way he felt yesterday. And there's adults and kids, and we all go through stuff, and that's okay. And you find strength in the people who can understand and accept you and give you that power. So, Braxton, if you want to come up and share real fast, and we'll get it over with.
I'm sad because I can't see my dad.
And I wanted to put in remembrance for Desi. I don't know if anybody read the announcements. Desi Perez passed away in a week before Thanksgiving. I found out in classroom, we were talking about graduation happening here at this church, May 14th. And one of my students said, "Is that the Free Spirit Church?" I said, maybe. And we talked, and he kept asking about the church. And he goes, "Do you know Desi?" And I said, "Yes." He goes, "That's my grandmother. And she always talked about the church." And he goes, he had a very hard Thanksgiving that she passed away. And so I put it in the announcements. I don't have any details. I don't think he wanted to speak about it. He said she had cancer. She passed a week before Thanksgiving. And I said, "Give me the details so I could share." His grandfather, Hector, is back in New York City. And I said, I knew Desi a lot because she was on Zoom. She was one of the biggest participants in Zoom.
Yes.
Yes. And her and Francie would speak all the time. A lot of times I would Zoom on when church was over so Francie and Desi could speak after church. So I don't have the details. I will let you know when I know more.
The sound.
Yes, it's on, Francie.
Oh, okay. And this is the time when we share our gifts for the work of this church. A couple of days ago, I was sitting at my desk just doing some paperwork in my home office, and my son, Malcolm, walked in with a pressing question. Dad, do zombies remember anything from their former life? I said, I don't think so. He said, can someone who's been zombified recognize a friend? I don't know. But zombies aren't real, so they can be custom made to fit into a story. Whoever's telling the story gets to decide these things. He said, some of my friends say zombies are fast, and some say zombies are slow. Which one is it? It depends on the movie or the video game or whatever. I think it would be scarier if they moved like those claymation creatures from the old Clash of the Titans movie. Those things looked insane. He shrugged because he had not seen that movie. Then he asked, did the Joker know Bruce Wayne when they were kids? So I set my work aside, and we talked about Batman movies and the history of zombies in cinema. I can't say whether zombies walk or run, but I can say for a fact that in such and such movie they're like this, and in such and such other movie they're like that. It's like a student sent me an email recently asking me if the devil is real or just a metaphor. My first impulse was to say, it's just something the church made up for one of its fundraisers. But then I happened to notice that the email was time-stamped 2:30 in the morning. Also, I have a responsibility to neither confirm nor deny any mythical creature to my college students. And if I keep telling my kids that the Easter Bunny is real, I guess I should be willing to play along with this devil thing too, because I find them equally believable. So I responded to my student that I would be glad to help him study the textual development of the Satan and track down some Bible quotes and essays. Then he could come up with his own conclusion, the logical deduction, that just as man makes God in his own image, man also makes the devil in the image of whoever he needs an excuse to hit. If one person wants to do something really unchristian to another, then pretending that their neighbor looks like Lucifer makes it not only blameless, but saintly to attack them, and kind of a sin not to. One could almost say that Christianity creates Satan in the shape of its next intended victim. Oh, that was supposed to be funny. I don't know. Okay. Mental note, paragraphs that end with the word victim aren't going to get a laugh. Okay. Well, some mythical creatures are even more malleable than that. The Hydra, for example, whose every severed head sprouted two more, can be a conqueror's symbol for grassroots resistance. Or it could represent the martyr's power to inspire new protesters. The Hydra originates as a minor legend of Heracles, and it's now become a stock character that can appear in any modern retelling of Greek myth. Storytellers can shape it and mold it as the production budget allows. They'll usually start by making it male or gender neutral, although in the source material, the Hydra is defiantly female. My familiarity with the Hydra comes mostly from Robert Graves, who writes that the many heads were actually a college of priestesses, and that each time Heracles killed one, two more would take her place. Here it's worth remembering that in Heracles' day, shortly before the Trojan War, the Greeks were barely out of the trees and caves. The only semblance of civilization would have been the pagan convents, where priestesses practiced mysterious rituals and hygiene. As the only people who ever washed their faces, they must have appeared to possess a supernatural glow. Then the barbarians came and sacked the nunneries, which doesn't sound very legendary. So they dressed up the stories, saying that they battled a multi-headed man-eating monster. And indeed, these priestesses probably did sacrifice men and eat them. The name Heracles and the word hero both originated with guys who were supposed to be slain on the altar of the goddess Hera. It was a precautionary measure to prevent the rise of an adamantly unhygienic patriarchy. Anyway, that's basically what we get from Robert Graves, who can pretty convincingly present all of history of a male fear of being eaten by women. That might sound infantile or Freudian, but try it on for size. Imagine any event or movement in all of human history, and then say, it happened because men are afraid that women will eat them. For a moment, everything made sense. It's certainly as good an explanation as anything else I've ever heard. The mythical Hydra was female and the daughter of either the fallen priestess Medusa or some sea monster. The goddess Hera raised her as a pet in the hope that this poisonous creature would someday kill her cheating husband's love child, Heracles. Scholar Carl Ruck of Boston University proposes that the Hydra, when we look at it, actually was more plant than animal. Some toxic vine whose stalks, once cut, would sprout others. This actually makes a great deal of sense, more than any other zoological explanation, and here I mean makes sense within the magical realm of mythical symbol. It could almost make for a good musical, like The Little Shop of Hydra. The earliest versions of the Hydra story are vase paintings, which circulated for centuries before anyone wrote anything down. The most famous written narrative is by Apollodorus, who wrote, "The Hydra had a huge body and 9 heads, 8 of them mortal, and the middle one immortal. By pelting it with fiery arrow shafts, Heracles forced it to come out of its den, then seized and held it fast. But the Hydra wound itself around one of his feet and clung to him. Nor could he effect anything by smashing its heads with his club, for as fast as one head was smashed, there grew 2 more. A huge crab also came to the help of the Hydra, biting his foot. So he killed it. And in his turn, he called for help from a friend who, by burning the roots of the heads with brands, prevented them from sprouting again. Having thus got the better of the sprouting heads, he chopped off the immortal head and buried it and put a heavy rock on it. The body of the Hydra he split up and dipped his arrows in its gall." The first thing we may note here is that the Hydra isn't trying to eat him. It wraps itself around his foot, maybe because he keeps clubbing it. The cutting, in some versions with a pruning hook, and the cauterizing sound more like weeding a flower patch than battling a serpent. And now I can't help but envision horticultural Heracles in a gardener's apron, carefully picking dandelions, anxious that any seed on the wind will sprout 2 more. The Hydra as plant theory makes additional sense when we recall that its blood was a toxic sap, and Heracles dipped his arrows in the poison in order to fight other monsters. Then, in one of Greek myth's fascinating twists, his same poison bow would be used a generation later by the archer Philoctetes, who shot Paris of Troy, ending the Trojan War. This is the last we hear of the blood of the Hydra. Another fascinating theory about the historical Hydra is that it was an underground river whose flooding rose up to drown the crops, creating malarial swamps that blighted the cattle. According to this theory, hatched by the 3rd century Italian scholar Servius, each time a channel of the river was blocked, the waters would split to either side of the dam, creating 2 new rivers. So using fire to cauterize the necks represented burning the ground to dry it out, so the floods would be absorbed before they could spread. This theory has the fascinating benefit of explaining the creature's name, Hydra, which literally means water. In 1735, the shriveled remains of the Hydra were up for auction in Hamburg, Germany. A young biologist, or he would have been called a biologist if the field had existed at the time, named Carl Linnaeus, who happened to be touring the town, asked if he could see this beast before it was sold. A brief look revealed that the dried husk was actually a collage of parts. a stuffed dog, some snakes, and weasel heads, stitched together long ago, likely by monks, attending to produce irrefutable proof of the beasts in the book of Revelation. Which I guess is one way to deal with people's disbelief. Just lie to them. Linnaeus told the town's mayor that a great embarrassment had been averted, a Hamburg humbug. But the mayor, who had once bought and was now trying to sell this relic, didn't see it that way. He gave Linnaeus a brief head start and then announced that he should be killed on sight if he were ever spotted in Hamburg again. Linnaeus left without stopping to get his luggage from the inn. And in this case of the Hamburg Hydra, and this case of the Hamburg Hydra is sometimes called the birth of modern taxonomy, birth of modern biology. But at around the same time that one Hydra was found to be a pious fraud, another discovered to be real. The Dutch scientist Antony van Leeuwenhoek, depending on how you read this 15-letter name, but discovered the existence of a microscopic freshwater predator that uses toxic barbs to stun its prey. And this creature is furthermore immortal in the sense that it can regenerate severed appendages and replace its aging cells with new ones. So theoretically, the real Hydra can live forever. Now, the ancient Greeks did not have the technology needed to observe this tiny thing. So it's not likely the inspiration for their mythical beast. But the Dutch scientist who discovered it 3,000 years later could think of only two possible names to give this monster, one being his mother-in-law. He went with the other, the Hydra. And 50 years later, Carl Linnaeus, who thankfully had never gone back to Hamburg, created a whole genus classification of tiny aquatic monsters, and thus the Hydra has factual existence in modern biology textbooks. When you're reading the textbook, the next alphabetical entry will be the hydrangea, an Asian flower. And this is just a coincidence. It is not named after the mythical monster, although its largest specimen is called the Hercules, which is how this legendary hero made it into the realm of science too. Hercules and the Hydra are real. You can find them in your biology book. What is the Hydra? The Hydra is the answer to a question I've never really cared to ask. And now that I've investigated the subject, I find that the topic keeps splitting. It's a reptile, a chimera. No, it's a poisonous vine. No, it's a symbol of rebellion against the patriarchy. No, it's a raging river. No, it's a real freshwater polyp. And as soon as I burn out one path of inquiry, two more present themselves. But at least now, after all this study, I feel that I'll be ready in case I'm ever working in my office and one of my kids comes up and asks me, "Dad, what is the Hydra? Really?" I'll be ready to drop what I'm doing and share. But 20 minutes later, they may regret that they asked. Thank you. Our service continues with our next hymn. Jesus, guide us, hope inside us, will lead the way on the road from greed to giving, Do we have any announcements today? Please.
As you all know, Unitarians don't pester you for money all year. We talk about it in the spring, and then we don't talk about it again. I brought the box. I handed out, most of you have gotten your pledge cards this morning. And if there are any newer people, you pay your pledge as you want. You can pay it with you when you give your card. You can pay it at the year. You can pay it at the beginning of the church year in August. You can pay it weekly. You can pay it monthly. Whatever works for you. Some people pay it for their taxes in December. Whatever works for you. We do need your cards back if you can, as soon as you can, because we need to give a report to the board before the annual meeting. So we'll need to know what we have to spend for the year to pay our ministers and keep the heat on. So if you can get your cards back to us in a timely fashion, we'd appreciate it. Just goes in the box to get counted before the meeting. Thanks.
So we've been talking about the Declaration of Independence, and I had, this morning I was listening to a podcast when I was walking my dog, and it's called Amicus, and it basically was about the 25th Amendment, about impeaching the president. But they played Jesse Jackson's very famous patchwork quilt speech. I don't know how many of you may have heard it, but he basically says that a lot of people try to make the United States a blanket made out of one kind of cloth. But what we really are is a patchwork quilt with a piece being each different kind of person, whether you're black or white, what your religion is, what your ethnicity is, and that it makes us a lot stronger as a patchwork quilt than one solid sheet of material. And today what we're going to see is a piece. It's a little longer. I apologize, and I hope that the sound is better than last week because that was terrible.
Well, we may be surprised to find that some of the earliest church leaders mentioned in the Bible are female. No, I really have to step back from this now. Now I can read it. Together we have sanctified this space. If you have found strength and comfort here, share some out there. Remember that you are blessed and you are a blessing and you are not alone. Please join me for the words of extinguishing the chalice, which are printed in your leaflet. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
I was going to do The Lunatic is on the Grass, but maybe for another time. I changed my mind. I think we could all turn to the first hymn, May Nothing Evil Cross this door. And so we'll do the first and last verse.